Hey there, everyone. Welcome to the show tonight. I really need to get some sort of intro song for these live streams, right? Maybe I'll figure that out here in the future. But I actually made it this Thursday. I am going to try from now on. That's the goal anyway, is Thursdays. So we'll see how many times I hit that mark. When I was doing the show the other day, I forgot to mention that this is also going to be an audio podcast. I guess YouTube's got their little podcasting thing here now, and I'm also going to be putting this out on as the Survivalist Prepper podcast. So I just heads up with that. Also, I am streaming this. I set up my Survivalist Prepper Rumble channel. So I have that going on over there. This is going out to Twitter. This is going out to Facebook. So, and I can see most of those comments. Not quite sure. I don't think I can do Rumble yet, but all the other ones I can. Cassandra's here. What's up, Cassandra? And I assume probably Robert as well. Texas Union Homestead. How's it going? Liberated Lady. Of course, you made it today. Very cool. But tonight, what I wanted to do was to talk about an article I found from Survival Sullivan that goes over sort of, how we get complacent as preppers. And that's why I titled this show, How Prepared Are You Really? Because sometimes we tend to give ourselves a little bit too much credit. And sometimes we kind of build up to a certain point and then we sit back and relax and think we're good to go. But honestly, I just don't know if there ever is really that, the top of the mountain like they talk about in this article that I'm going to go over in a little bit. But what I'm also going to do is as I go through these, I'll go through a section and then I'll pause and if you have any questions or anybody has any good input. I know the Denise is in the chat. Hi, Denise. How you doing? I know the people in the chat really have some good stuff to offer from time to time. So I'll be pausing every once in a while to go through those if I can get to them. If you had a question that was from 5-10 minutes ago and I don't see it, just go ahead and repost that and I'll see and hopefully I can get to that. But before we get into this article here, I wanted to show you guys something. This thumbnail that I had, I put this together, one, because I like that picture of the outhouse dude. And for those of you listening to the podcast, it's a guy in an outhouse reading a newspaper with a gas mask on. But the other side is what I want to talk about, and it looks just like some sort of concrete building. A lot of you probably already know what this is. This isn't something that's new. It's 5-10 years old, I believe, somewhere in that range. But I found this article that goes through what exactly this building is, and I wanted to pull it up here because it's pretty neat. It's something that I think I would want to. Let me see if I can view this gallery here. Something that, I don't know that there's a lot of mistakes with it. I'll just go with it like that, but it's pretty cool, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on it as well. But this is the building, super closed up, everything locked down, zombie proof, basically, right? A big concrete block is what it is. And then this one right here is sort of with it open up. And it's got the windows. Looks like a pretty nice home, right? On the inside. Those walls look to me like they're probably 2-3 feet thick. I don't know how they're reinforced. All of that. It just looks like pretty cool. The outer perimeter, I think, is the next one. No, this one is the closed up house. Yeah, this is the outer perimeter. Looks like it's the same material, maybe even a little bit thicker. I don't know. And then this is with it opened up. So you can really lock things down in this little property. This picture shows how it's all locked down. It looks from the picture like they're not in a suburban area, I guess. Tony in the chat said the back is very exposed. Yeah, it looks like it, unless you just can't see what's back there, but it looks like it. The other thing I noticed was that there's no turrets, and maybe there is, I don't know, but there's no gun ports or anything like that. So if you wanted to defend it, you'd have to almost get above that fence line, which, takes away your concealment. So I don't know about that. Now behind it, maybe they do have, garden farming, doing stuff like that. But if they just built this house to protect themselves from zombies, I think they've got more money than sense. But I would take it and I would prepper the heck out of it and make it awesome. So yeah, I mean, it just looks, I think this is a cool looking house. So, yeah, Christian said, Fort Knox. Yeah. So the next thing I wanted to go over real quick is, the other day we were talking about EMP stuff, and I got to see if I can find this. Yeah. And I was talking about Arthor Bradley. And Arthor Bradley, if you guys don't know, is fantastic. Really knows his stuff, does a lot of testing. I believe he used to work for NASA or still does, something like that. But he's got his store, Disaster Preparer, which I have the link to in the description below. But he sent, I'm on his email list, and he sent me out an email that was talking about EMP tractor protection. And I thought that was, something that, you don't really think about it, but actually that would be pretty beneficial. Now with me and a tractor, I use it to, the most dirt I move usually is if I'm just, digging a hole or leveling something out. Maybe I'm moving some compost over to the raised bed gardens, maybe picking up some horse poop, stuff like that. That's my main purpose. Lisa uses it to drag her arena for her horses. But that's, its main purpose right now. I don't have a farm. I don't do any of that stuff yet. So it doesn't get used for that. And I never thought about it. But when you think, and for those of, I mean, a lot of you probably don't even have a tractor, but, riding mowers or whatever, ATVs. But in an SHTF situation, I was thinking about how useful a tractor might be, because nobody else, especially in my area, nobody else would be, as far as a CME or an EMP, their tractors may be toast, or components of those tractors may be toast. So it could be, a double-edged sword, in high demand as far as for bartering, going and helping people out, doing things for goods, goods and services, all that stuff. And also, having the only tractor in town that works kind of makes you a bit of a target too. But Disaster Preparer here, he's got some pretty cool stuff on his website. I just watched a video of his the other day. He's got some videos on YouTube, but he talked about protecting his gun safe, how you can seal up a gun safe. And I thought that was a pretty cool idea, because you can basically, all you did was put a gasket around the outside seal, and then a piece of this right here, this EMP reducing cloth over the electric mechanism in the front, and turned it into basically a Faraday cage. You could put, depending on your gun safe and how thick it is, his is pretty thick. That's why he didn't have to seal up the whole thing. He just had to seal up, use a gasket. But depending on how big it is, you could fit a lot of, your communication equipment in there, a lot of things. So you don't necessarily need better store fuel for that tractor. Yeah, that's true as well. Yeah, I've got some stored, but not. I've got very little diesel stored. I've got regular gasoline stored, but I've got very little diesel stored. But it was. I thought it was pretty cool. You could use a gun safe as basically a Faraday cage. So. But he's got all sorts of things. I think he's working on this EMP alert thing right here, which is why I wanted to bring this up. This is basically something you just plug in, and I'm not promoting him. I'm not affiliated with him or anything like that. It's just, I think the guy is great. I may try to have him on in the future as well. But this EMP alert thing is pretty cool, because it basically it's only a warning. It's not like it shuts off your electronics or anything like that, but it's a warning to tell you that there's activity going on that has the same characteristics of an EMP, whether that's the E1, E2, or the E3 effect. And that's pretty cool. I believe, and I'm not sure, so don't quote me on this, and some of you in the chat may know as well, but I think he developed this. And I know you've got the EMP shield and all that, and people, there's both sides of the fence on that EMP shield. Some people say it's great. Some people say it's a piece of junk. It's not going to work. They do have, I've talked to the guys, and they're really knowledgeable on the subject. They do have a military contract. Take that for what it's worth. I mean, the military contract. I know Arthor Bradley a couple times in the past has said a couple things about them, and I think he was told to cease and desist, so he really hasn't lately. But my whole point is he really knows his stuff. So if you are concerned about that EMP, CME type stuff that's going on, he's got a lot of products right there, and they're good. It's not like you get on Amazon and you cross your fingers that you're getting a good product and you're not getting some Chinese made in China piece of junk. So at any rate, that's enough with all of that stuff here. Let me get into this article from Survival Sullivan. And this is, let me pull it up here. 10 easy steps for getting out of your prepping comfort zone. And I sort of think of this as how we sort of get complacent as preppers. We do certain things, or sometimes it's the things that we like to do. And you know what? I forgot to pause there if anybody has any questions or anything like that. And then I will get into this one. Let's see here. If this will pull up. All right. Utah Mike. I use job site toolboxes, knack and rigid to build my Faraday cages. That would be a pretty good idea. Yeah. And then it doesn't look like a Faraday cage. On his website, he's got, actually on his YouTube channel, he shows exactly how to make a small Faraday cage. He shows you how to do a trash can Faraday cage the correct way. All those cool things. So, all right. So now let me get into, the article that I was talking about from Survival Sullivan. And like I said, if you guys have any comments, I'll go through. I've got about 7 of the points here. I just made slides, so I'm not going to read the whole article. And I'll pause after each slide. And if you guys have any questions, anything you want to add to it, I will read those there. But at any rate, he's talking about getting out of your prepping comfort zone. And to me, it's that, the us getting complacent. And it's really easy to get complacent when it comes to preparedness, when it comes to everyday life, basically, because nothing happens at a relative, it seems like it is these days, but nothing happens quite a lot of the, how do I want to say this? Most of the time, life is normal. Life is good. Everything's going on status quo. So there's not any sort of major events that cause you to, your alert level to raise. Like I said, these days, that's a little bit different. So these are just some tips that he's got in here about getting out of that comfort zone. And in this, the first thing he sort of goes over here is don't fall for the master mentality. And what he's talking about here is don't assume, that you're so great at something that you don't have to work on it anymore. And I also see it as sort of a don't get too focused. And he didn't write this in there, but my opinion on this too, that mastery mentality is don't get so focused on one thing, trying to get one thing done, that you're forgetting about everything else. So in this, he talks about the pursuit of mastery and how it's always a pursuit. So regardless if you've got military experience, there's some of us out there that have a leg up on everybody else. Some people have military experience. Some people went to school to be RNs, doctors, surgeons, electricians, engineers. I mean, some people just their lifestyle, their career sort of lends itself to preparedness. But all of them probably would tell you, all the ones I would listen to anyway, would tell you that they're always trying to get better. They're always trying to learn more because things change, life changes, technology changes, the people you work around change, you change. I mean, everything changes. So you're always looking to get better at those things that you do. Which leads me to, and this is not in the article, this is sort of just my thoughts on this, but it leads me to being the jack of all trades. And that sort of is what I am, because I don't have that military experience. You know, like I said, some people do. Some people have that background. Brian, that I do the other show with, firefighter, EMT, military, all sorts of different things. He's just got all those things that just make him, if somebody were trying to put together a prepper group, he checks a lot of boxes. Me, I'd have to sort of sell myself because I'm that jack of all trades type guy. I'm pretty good at a few things. Some things I need to get better at. But I think in a preparedness situation, that, that's, I don't want to say better, but it's suited for preparedness, because just because if you're in a smaller group or if you're alone, just because you're good at one thing doesn't really mean that increases your survivability. Now, if a situation, say it is some sort of situation where that tactical stuff comes into play, maybe it does. But if it's a situation where you need to grow your own food, having that military experience isn't going to be all that great. So I think that jack of all trades is sort of what we should thrive to be. Anyway, let me see if I can redo that whole freaking part right there, and I will actually put audio on that. So what I was talking about, Denise, I hope you can hear this now. If you guys can hear this now, let me know. Let me put these back here so you guys know what the heck I was doing. So at any rate, I was talking about a well-rounded preparedness plan. And with a well-rounded, okay, Denise said we hear you now. Yeah. Sorry about that. Hey, it's my first show doing this by myself. So, and those of you that watch the Survival Preppers, you're kind of used to it anyway. But what I was talking about is in preparedness, what this little chart is here, which you guys were probably going, what the hell is he doing? That red circle right there is basically your perfect preparedness plan, right? The perfect plan that you'd like to have. This red little shape, whatever this is, this little drunk star in the middle, is basically the areas of preparedness that you're proficient in. Maybe like this one that goes way outside the preparedness circle here. Maybe you've got military experience. Maybe you're a Navy SEAL, right? So you've got plenty of skill to handle just about any disaster SHTF situation that will come. But maybe you don't know too much about gardening, so your skill level with that is down there. Maybe, you don't know, well, first aid, if you have military experience, you'd probably know that. But our goal in preparedness should be to increase all of this stuff as much as possible. So let's say you learn a little bit about gardening. I don't know if I can get this to move back out. Yeah, I can. You learn a little bit about gardening, or you learn a little bit about, maybe you've got 5-gallon buckets. You learn how to package some food storage. You learn some dehydrating and stuff like that. So that part gets taken and goes up. Over here on the other side, and these can be whatever, first aid, sanitation, hygiene, food storage, all the stuff in preparedness. Maybe over here you've taken a stop the bleed class, so you can, your first aid area of preparedness is starting to increase. Then maybe you've taken a couple other classes, a CERT class. Over here, maybe what have we talked about? Oh, you've got your water. You figured out how to get a solar system or something set up, or a battery bank or something like that. So what you're doing, and maybe you went and took a shooting class. That was active, you were actually moving around rather than just shooting at targets. So you can see what I was talking about with all of everything you do in preparedness. It sort of expands on that, and everything gets a little bit, you sort of build your whole entire preparedness plan, and we slowly get better and better with all of this stuff. And like I was talking about in the beginning, you're not going to get what nobody's ever going to fill in that entire circle. It's just not the way prepping works. When we get, up to this level, most of the time anyway, with preparedness, especially when it comes to consumables, you get up to this point with preparedness. If you let that go, all of a sudden you're back down here, and you've got to start over again. So it's just a work in progress, always a work in progress. All right, so I don't know. That had to have been better that time. You could actually hear me. So At any rate, I want to go through some of the things that I think I've got like 6 or 7 here from this article that he talked about things that we should pay attention to, things that, things that, will help us not to get complacent about our preparedness plans and not overestimate how prepared we actually are. So with this, the first one here is establish deadlines for all the important stuff. And it says here, when you were in the middle of a survival scenario, I think spell check attacked me right there. When you are in the middle of a survival scenario or any other major crisis, you'd better believe that all of your important tasking is going to have hard deadlines. When the weather is cold, getting worse, or the sun's getting low in the sky, you've got to have shelter, a fire going, pronto, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Likewise, when major trouble is coming down the turnpike, you need to be elsewhere if you want to stand a chance at getting a good outcome. No excuse will suffice. And with this, I think there's another thing that I think it's important to establish deadlines too, and it's sort of what I talked about a little bit earlier, is not solely focusing on one thing, and then forgetting about everything else. But in this article, he's talking about making sure that you stick to it, that if you create goals and you stick to this stuff, you're more likely to get to that point. And make these stretch goals we're going to get into this a little bit deeper in a second, but make sure they're goals that are attainable, but they're going to push you, and you're going to be able to, you may not be able to reach those, but you're going to get close, and it's going to be something that you are going to get done. So make sure that you're establishing, hey, I want to get this done by this certain date. This is my goal for this. I want to make sure I learn whether that's, storing food in 5-gallon buckets. I want to make sure and go to a first aid class this summer, a stop the bleed class or something like that. So all of that is, I think, really important, because he's right in this article right here where he talks about it. In a survival situation, it's unforgiving. That is not the time to go, thinking that, I've got this all figured out. And then all of a sudden you don't, and you've got to sort of, get things done on the fly. So let me take a drink of water real quick. I'm going to lose my voice before I even get through this stuff. But at any rate, establish deadlines for all the important stuff, and make sure, something that you're working on, make sure you have goals in mind, make sure you have a time frame in mind, and don't make it the only thing that you think about. The next one here that he's got in this article, and this is a really good one. Talk to real survivors of catastrophes and get their accounts. Lots of preppers who have never truly been tested in a disaster or some emergency. They have great ideas about how things will go and what they will do and how they'll generally work out. We have one thing in common, and these have one thing in common, and they're generally completely whimsical. I mean to say that they're not grounded in reality, and the moment you think reality is not going to assert itself, or the fundamental beliefs aren't congruent with it, you're heading for a really bad time. And this is a really good point, because we see a whole lot of stuff on the internet from all these people giving us advice here and there, and everybody has got something to say basically about everything these days. But you really don't. I mean, there's good people online, and then there's bad people. There's people online that Selco comes to mind when you think about somebody that has went through a disaster situation. Even friends. We're going to get into this in a second, but people that that have gone through hard times. Those are the people to talk to about this stuff. One of these I want to show you just to show my point here. In this article right here, I don't know where I saw this the other day, but it was somebody asking about, and we're going to talk about inflation and all that towards the end of the show, but somebody was asking about how do you prepare for 100% inflation? And I thought it was hilarious that the answers that this person gets, because it illustrates exactly what I'm talking about. Like this first one here, ammo also makes good currency when the money goes bad. I don't know that that's good advice. It's true, I suppose, but I don't know that ammo is going to be one of my barter items. I'm not giving somebody bullets that could be flying back at me. That's just me. This next one was pretty good advice. You take everything with you. You take everything you've been preparing for, do the comments like administration. I'm not going to go through all this, but you get good advice. And then this next one right here is the one that I'm talking about that just kind of gets me. It says, I'm sorry if as far as you've gotten in prepping is worrying about money. I must tell you that you have a long way to go. So this person is just assuming that just because the person asked that question, that they don't have anything else going on in their preparedness plans. So take all of this stuff with a grain of salt from these people, because they don't know what they all have their opinions, and they all have the exact right way to do it. Right? Nobody's coming to my house. I'm gonna, I'm locking down, and anybody walks through my front yard, I'm blasting them, and that's all there is to it. Well, not good advice. If that's you, then good for you, bro. But I want advice. If you've heard my podcast I did with Selco, I think Brian did a podcast with Selco as well. He talks about how it actually went down when they were in a siege type environment in the Balkans, and how the barter economy and how the criminal activity and all those different things happened. And you gain much more insight from situations like that than you do from some Joe Blow on the internet telling you how to do something that you don't know from Adam. So just a really good point. Learn as much as you can from people who have actually been through it, people who have actually trained for it. That's why I'm picking Brian's brain all the time. Kevin Ryder, same thing. He's got basically the same sort of skill set as Brian, picking their brains all the time about this different stuff. So let's go to, first off, I want to check some comments. Anybody, ammo only goes to members. Yeah, Tiger. Very good. Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on that. Because why do you want to give that stuff? I mean, I guess if I was completely starving, and had no other option, then I'm going that route. But other than that, no. Plus, I don't know that there is how much is enough ammo? You ask the ATF, you ask the government, they've got an answer for you. It's probably about 15 rounds, but really, how much is enough? You just never know. So you don't want to be same. It's sort of the same thing as food. You don't want to be giving that stuff out, and then all of a sudden you've got nothing. Then you got your little slingshot, trying to go out and hunt or do whatever you're doing. So the next one I've got here is, have trusted friends or mentors critique your skills and vulnerabilities. And this sort of goes into the same thing that I was just talking about, but everyone likes to think they're an ace or good at something, even if they are only truly good at one thing. But without a watermark or valid critique, what you can truly compare yourself against, you might be blowing smoke. If you have ever had someone let the air out of your tires before, so to speak, you're probably in for a rude awakening. If you've never had anyone let the air out of your tires. When it comes to prepping for and other readiness related skills, all of us should strive to seek out truly trusted close friends and mentors, and a mentor figure, and give them and have them give us a genuine critique. And like I said, this is what I was talking about with Kevin, with Brian, with all these people that may have a better idea about different aspects of preparedness than you do. It sort of goes back to this chart that I was talking about. This is, let me pull this off here. This is just your preparedness plan, right? But if you get 3, 4, 5 people and they overlap all of these orange little shapes, whatever that is, then, and you've got that prepper group thing going, then you've got a lot of different things covered. And that's where having that friend, even if it's not in your group, having that friend that can sort of teach you something or show you what you're doing wrong, that's where that comes in handy. Shooting comes to mind with me because, we go to the range, we sort of get in these habits of how we do things, how we draw, how we, whatever it is. And then if you have an instructor there with you, he's going to watch every little thing you do and give you some hopefully constructive criticism on what you should change. Whereas if we don't have that friend or that instructor telling us what to do, we're going to continue and do it the same way that we're comfortable doing it. And this goes with everything with preparedness, how you do your food storage, how you do a lot of different things. So it's always important, I think, to have that, anytime you can get that outside criticism. And it doesn't just have to be somebody it could be somebody online that knows what they're talking about and is not going to just blow smoke. And they're out there along with them. There are also a lot of people out there that are just out there to scare you and blow smoke and all that stuff. So, all right. So with that one, we got, let me see if I can pull up this comment here. We got Liberated Lady add a comment. I haven't read it yet, so hopefully it's a good one. She's going back to the bullets. Afraid that bullet would have my name on it if I handed bullets out. So not happening. Yep. Or last resort. Yeah, that's exactly my thoughts on it too. And I think it's probably a lot of people's thoughts on that is, not the bullets, not the food, not the bullets. I'm going to, have stuff that I specifically store for bartering. Booze is one of those. I'm curious your guys' thoughts in the chat. What do you think about booze? Because with me, I don't drink, so I could stock up massive amounts of booze. The problem with that, and I'm sure there'd be a whole lot of people, it would be in high demand. The problem with that is you've turned yourself into a liquor store. They know where that stuff is, and the characters, the type of people that you're attracting are probably not, the best. The type of people that are going to be going for that vodka or that Jim Beam, just to kind of wash away their, dry their tears and forget about everything that's going on around them. I don't know if that's the type of person you want. So I'm not sure that booze would be one of those barter items. But Tiger said, nope, not booze. I'm drinking it all myself. Yeah, that's the problem. See, I wouldn't have that problem. Some people would. It'd be hard to keep your stockpile. But Selco, like I was talking about earlier, he was talking about the Balkans, and he was talking about Bic lighters, batteries, things like that were the barter items that were really in high demand. Cigarettes, things like that were really in high demand and could get you the different things that you needed. So Bic lighters are easy to, I probably got 15 or 20 of them sitting around the house. I don't necessarily have anything stored up, but Utah Mike here in the chat said, if you do not use or eat or use, do not store it. Yeah, I'm sort of that way as well. I do see some sort of situation where bartering is, let me pull that off. Bartering would become necessary, but in a large scale, everything, we're talking Mad Max type situation, not bartering. Now, maybe after that, after everything starts to calm down and it's not so dangerous anymore, then we're thinking about it. But during something like that, I'm not doing anything. I'm going to be in that house that I showed in the beginning, that big old concrete fortress, locked down, basically. All right, so let's see if I can remember. I was on Trusted Friends. So one more, check the chat real quick. Booze is a great painkiller. It's good to stockpile that stuff, even if you don't drink. We've got a few bottles of some stuff around here anyway, vodka and Everclear. Because it does have other purposes as well, not just for getting drunk. But if it came to maybe a situation where it was the end, and, we knew it was, I had about a half an hour to live or whatever, or had to get operated on, glug, glug, glug. I don't care. I'm tanking it. I'm knocking myself out, basically. Sugar, Finjack said, yeah, sugar, a bartering item. Sugar could be something like that. You package that in sugar, salt, all of those different things, definitely could. Sugar's easy to store too. You can store a whole lot of sugar. But again, it's that catch-22 of the whole bartering thing. How are you opening yourself up to all this stuff? Sugar, it wouldn't be too bad, just thinking on this now, and then I'll move on. But sugar wouldn't be too bad because that doesn't necessarily say you've got, a year and a half worth of food stored, 2 years worth of food store. But it does say that, hey, he's giving away sugar and stuff. So Tiger said sugar is for making bread and booze. Yeah. All right. So the next one on this list here is, and this goes to what I was talking about earlier a little bit about stretch goals and not focusing on one thing, but he talks about bite off more than you can chew. You know what they say when it comes to working out in the gym, no pain, no gain. I've heard it put another way, no exertion, no expansion. I particularly like the latter one because it's a slightly whimsical term of the same phrase. But I think it applies even better when it comes to skill sets and skill building, particularly building prepping skills. If we aren't stretching, hurting, and sometimes failing, then we aren't getting stronger. If we aren't getting stronger, that means we aren't growing. Accordingly, we need to stop lying to ourselves about what we are truly capable of. And I think that's the one that really hits home with me, is that people tend to give themselves a little bit too much credit. As we get older, all of us preppers are, in our 30s, 40s, 50s, somewhere in that range. But as we get older, our minds up here, we're still 20 years old, right? But down, here and here, we're not 20 years old anymore. So those skills and things deteriorate, and we got to be honest with ourselves about what we're going to actually be able to do. And again, goes back to that diagram that I was talking about, those certain areas of your preparedness that may dwindle a little bit, and there's not a whole lot you can do about that. Health things, if something happens medically and you are on medication and have to be on medication, or if something happens and you are disabled one way or another, those all play a factor in your preparedness. But bite off more than you can chew. And basically he's talking about, and it was what I was talking about earlier, those goals. Make sure they're stretch goals. Make sure they are attainable, but make sure they're going to be a pain to actually reach and actually get to, or make sure they're things, like this whole Photoshop thing that I was just showing you right there. It has nothing to do with prepping, but it's sort of the same thing. There are things that I do on Photoshop day in and day out, and I'm really good at, because I do thumbnails for videos and images for articles and stuff like that. But there are so many different tools in there that I have no idea how to use them, because I never use them. So I'm always trying to figure out all of these different techniques. And the same thing goes with preparedness. When you're, whether it's shooting, whether it's food storage, whether it, medical stuff, all of these different things. Try to challenge yourself a little bit and grow in your preparedness. And that's how you fill out that preparedness plan. Tiger said in the chat, the mind is willing, but the body says F you. Yeah, I think that's all of us, basically. Now, there are some things we can do to try to stay a little bit healthier, and I fall short on that a lot of the time, but it's always something that I'm trying to get better at, trying to push off the end as long as I can. But this was a good point right here. Bite off more than you can chew. Any other comments? I'll give this a couple minutes. Any other comments in the chat before I move on to the next one? Liberated Lady said, painful days here too, Tiger. Yeah, you were talking about that the other day, Liberated Lady. You were recently in the emergency room. I hope everything is going better for you. And you're here right now, so it's got to be, at least you're not still in the emergency room. So that's good. All right, I got a couple more here. And this is a pretty good one as well. And this one is, as mentioned above, and this is in the article, most preppers have never truly experienced a full-blown disaster or catastrophe. And this is what talking about, talk to somebody, what he was talking about earlier, talk to somebody who's actually been through this stuff. Now, nobody's been through a major disaster. Daily emergencies, yes. Small-scale disasters, probably also yes. But huge regional foundation rattling disasters, no. Thankfully, no. But that does nothing to help prepare them for facing their own. Luckily for us, there's a way to start inoculating ourselves against the chaos and the surreal shift in perception that is attendant with destruction on a massive scale and all of the second and third order effects that accompany it. Go volunteer and help out at a site of a major disaster. Do whatever you can think of to assist. Now, with this, out here in Colorado, I've never really had much of an opportunity to do something like that. I'm sure down in Florida or maybe where there's earthquakes and things like that, maybe in urban areas, there's more opportunity to go out and help, in situations like that. But you can also talk to, go take classes and talk to the instructors, talk to the people that have been through situations like that. And you can gain, at least a better idea about it. Now, that's not going to compare to, say, if we had a tornado out here. The biggest things I've done is like, blizzards. I've helped some people out stuck on the side of the roads or in their cars, but never had a tornado here where I had to actually go help dig people out or anything like that. But that would be fantastic firsthand knowledge, and it would make you feel good about yourself as well because you're out there helping somebody. You're out there, helping people out. You're putting your skills and the knowledge that you've gained to work for you. So it would be, super beneficial when you're thinking about a preparedness perspective. So if something like that does happen, I think I would be that person that would be out there in the first place trying to help out. I couldn't be, you've seen it sometimes where, you've probably seen it sometimes where, there's a big accident and people just keep driving by. That's not me. I know it's kind of a pain in the butt because you think, oh man, the cops they're going to want to question me, this and that. But if it looks like it was bad enough where somebody is hurt, I'm stopping. And that's just the way I am. But those type of situations can help you out in a disaster because you can kind of go back and reflect on those situations and figure out, wow, that was a little bit more stressful than I thought it was going to be. I didn't expect I didn't expect there to be that much blood. I didn't expect it to be that hard to stop the bleeding. All of those things could be things that you'd learn a lot from. Thinking about a tornado here or an earthquake in California or the New Madrid fault or whatever, if you had to start helping to unbury somebody, the one they just had in Turkey, your physical endurance, you could figure out real quick that, that's lacking a little bit. You could, different tools, you could be seeing people using different tools that are helpful in situations like that, and they can give you some ideas on that. So at any rate, I think that's a really good one. Help out after disaster strikes. Any comments? If you do have any comments, Local Prepper, what's up? Thumbs up given. Liberated Lady said, let me see, I gotta put this on the right one here. I don't want to flip to the wrong frame. Definitely, Dale. I know a couple who travels with, and like Brian and I, look to help people, mainly flat tires and engine work on the side of the road. They ask for nothing but friendship. Yeah, and it makes us feel, sort of good about all the stuff that we're doing, because it gives us, an opportunity to kind of test our stuff out. And you know what? You just never know. Karma, right? Whether you believe in karma or not, it's always good to stock that bank with good deeds and stuff like that. So very good comment, Liberated Lady. All right, so the next one I've got here is understand the human enemy. And I think, to me anyway, this is the most important. Well, this is on the top of my list. I don't want to say most important because they're all important. But in a similar vein to volunteering for disaster relief efforts, as a sort of method to understand a threat, we should also strive to understand the human threat that even one of us could potentially face day in and day out. From the violent opportunistic criminals to the truly vile mongrels that are ever lurking in the darkest corners of our world and sometimes right in the pews next to us at church. And in this article, what he was sort of going over is, don't judge a book by its cover, basically. These days, you can, we just don't know what that person is like. And he also talks about in this last paragraph here where he's talking about how criminals, they love to brag. They love to talk about what they're doing, how they did it, all that different stuff. Not the smartest tools in the toolbox, but they love to brag. So you can gain insight from them why they do certain things they do, how they do certain things they do. We can find out a lot of that information on the internet as well, and sort of know your enemy, I suppose. With me, I think of it in a SHTF type situation, sort of the same thing where people are going to devolve into that, worried about me, myself, and my family. I've got to take care of myself. I know people like to believe that people inside are totally good and they're going to be helpful in disasters, kind of like what we were just talking about. And in some cases, that absolutely is true. In smaller scale situations where it's feasible to go out and help people, it's not that complete dire situation. There are going to be people that are going to be helpful. We are going to be people that are going to be helpful and trying to get everything back together. If it is something that there is no end in sight, I don't know so much about that. And I think people, when they start to see that there's no end in sight, that's when they start to devolve into that primal sort of, I've got to take care of me, I've got to take care of my family, and I've got to do it by whatever means necessary. And I think that's where the danger comes in, because when there's law and order, when there's rules, chaos is sort of reined in. But when none of that is around, that whole can of worms is just going to open up and people are going to be fending for themselves. So sort of along that, understanding how those turds behave now is good to know, because you're going to know what some of these quote unquote good people are going to turn into in the future. So, all right. So, I've got one more here, and then I'll go through some comments after this. And this is, I think, maybe this is the most important one other than the other one. But buy training and experience, not stuff. And as you'll notice, as I was going through this and his article over at Survival Sullivan, not once did buying stuff get mentioned. In this article, he says, if there's one thing that all preppers love, it's buying new stuff, new gear, new equipment, new supplies, stuff, things, and gubbins. I don't know what gubbins is. I've never heard that word. If anybody in the chat does, let me know. Trust me, I'm not living in a glass house here because I'm the same way. Me too. Call it an abundance of material preparation or just retail therapy. I like that word, retail therapy. I'm probably guilty either way. However, this is yet another trap of complacency that preppers fall into, because it is entirely too easy to actually believe that we can buy skill, or that we can buy hardware solutions to problems that will only be solved by sophisticated mental software. I really like that paragraph right there. Take note of that, because that is exactly true when it comes to preparedness. Finally, he says here, to put it another way, the tools don't matter if you don't have the skills and experience to use them. And I talk about this all the time. We need the stuff. We need the different supplies. We need the bug out bags. We need maybe the solar setups and all that. But we need the skills more. And the more skills we have, the more valuable those tools are going to be. A scalpel in my hand, well, a scalpel in my hand could be a little bit dangerous, but it's going to be a whole lot different. A scalpel in a surgeon's hands is going to be a whole lot different than in my hands. Heck, even in Lisa's hands, she's going to know a lot more about how to use that. And that's because she's taken the time, or doctors and surgeons have taken the time to learn those skills, so they really know how to use those supplies, those scalpels or whatever. People in the military that go through basic training or have been in the military for a long time really understand the firearms aspect of it, or the tactical aspect of everything. So it is that I call them force multiplying skills, because it takes all the skills you have, takes those supplies and makes them even stronger. Gubbins probably meant silly stuff, is what Denise said. Yeah. That's sort of what I maybe I figured it was like a quote or maybe I thought it was a quote from a movie or something like that. I don't know, but training and experience, that is I think the number one prep, because you can have all the stuff, and all the stuff is important, the food storage, the water storage, but when you're in a situation that may be, some sort of large scale situation, you're going to want to be able to think your way through that. you're going to want to be able to navigate through that, sort of MacGyver your way through that. If you're in a bug out situation, there's going to be a lot of mental gymnastics going on, trying to stay out of trouble and sidestep things. And the stuff in your bag is fantastic and it is useful, but nothing beats having a knowledge weighs nothing, like they say, right? So that's it on that article. It was a really cool article, I thought. Nothing, earth-shattering, nothing that none of us have probably heard before, but it's all stuff that we should, reassess and take note of and try to think about, because it is really easy to get stuck in this hole of preparedness where you think you get complacent, you get bored, you get tired of it, or maybe you only do the certain areas of preparedness that you really enjoy. Say if you're a really good gardener, you really like getting outside and doing that stuff. You've got that area of preparedness covered to the max, but you don't have the self-defense figured out. You don't have the home security figured out, and you're lacking in those areas. So I think it's just important that we remind ourselves every once in a while that, to one, stay on the ball, and two, make sure that we're focusing our attention in the right places, and make sure and grow. Finjack in the comments said here, and I'm not going to comment on this, but do you follow Canadian Prepper? Any opinions on any opinions of content? I'll tell you what, I will say a little bit here, and I'm not going to say anything bad. Dude knows what he's talking about. Dude has some good videos and all that, and I'll just leave it right there. Tiger in the chat basically, said it. But there's a lot of really good YouTubers out there. City Prepper, he's got a pretty huge YouTube channel. Sensible Prepper, Scooch, I think is his name. Such, really good YouTube channel. Just a bunch of them. If you're into firearms and stuff, Hickok 45. Just a lot of people that I follow. Engineer Scott Hunt, engineer. Or maybe it's not Scott. Yeah, engineer one something. And then, just a bunch of people. In the chat, if you guys want, throw in a couple of YouTube channels that you really like, and I'll read them off here. And also in the chat, what I wanted to do before I get out of here today, I wanted to get your guys' thoughts. I want to spend about 15, 20 minutes on this or whatever. Get your thoughts on the whole financial system that's coming up. And Brian and I talked about this a little bit the other day, but you've got the banks that are just, crumbling left and right, it seems like these days, the last couple of weeks. And maybe they've sort of got that under control. Who knows with the things they're doing. I know just today or just yesterday, they raised the interest rate yet again. Said it's probably the last time they're going to do it, but who knows. Prepper Nation, we're Beaverines. Oh, I thought you were talking about, Tiger. There is a YouTube channel called Preparedness. That's why I thought you were talking about. And I think they're halfway decent as well. But there are, it just seems to me we're, like I said in the other show, we're sort of teetering on the edge of stuff. And it's got me concerned about, how much, we keep in the bank, how much we take out of the bank. And I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts, any comments in the chat of what you plan on doing or what you would suggest doing. Because like I said in the last show, I'm not one to tell anybody how to do things and what you should do with your money, because I think everybody has a different situation. Everybody has different finances, different family structure and all that. Tiger said in the chat, Outlaw Prepper. I've never heard of Outlaw Prepper, so I'll have to check them out. But everybody has different situations. What I've been thinking about is sort of what I sort of need to do. And I've got a little bit of crypto, or not crypto, I've got a little bit of Bitcoin, which we talked a little bit about the other day. Bitcoin is one of those things I don't, Tiger said, yes, Dale, Prepper Nation rocks. Okay. Crypto or Bitcoin is one of those things I don't put more into that than that I'm willing to lose, because who knows where that's going in the future. It could go to complete zero, or it could get adopted more because all of these countries and governments are jacking up the economy so much that it becomes something that is used sort of in that sort of kind of bartering economy. Corporal's Corner, Finjack said, I'll have to check that out as well. I'd never heard of that as well. But Bitcoin is one of those things. You hear about gold and silver all the time. Some people, I have very, very little gold because I just can't. It's not one of those things that I'm going to put a lot of money into. Although it's at the rate things are going these days, it's going to be more valuable than the money in the bank. And the same thing sort of, on the lines of Bitcoin is Bitcoin right now anyway, it went down quite a bit, but it loses when you think about how much the dollar loses, especially in the last year compared to what Bitcoin loses. There was a time there when Bitcoin was actually hanging pretty steady and the dollar was declining. So you were actually, by having money in Bitcoin, you were actually gaining money. Same principle goes with gold and silver and all that as well. The less you have in a savings account in an actual bank, that your money is not really your money anyway. The more you have in gold and silver, hard tangible assets, the better off I think you're going to be. So, Tiger's got a whole bunch of them. Doug and Stacy, yeah, they're cool as well. So at any rate, and also your guys' thoughts, if you want, how do you see, are you as worried as I am for the next few months and all that? Or do you see it sort of leveling out? Is this, like a lot of them are saying right now, is this the peak of the bad times? I've heard, anybody that basically works in the Biden administration is going to tell you that we're doing great and that we're coming out of this just fine. But then you've got financial advisors talking about how this could be just the tip of the iceberg, or it's going to get worse before it gets better. I just, it's one of those things it's on top of mind. Also with investing, and we talked about this the other day as well, that food storage, the long-term food storage and everything, is also a good investment because it's something that you can store, non-perishable food. So even going to the grocery store and getting those non-perishable foods, stuff that you can stock up on, put it away, and if everything goes fine, then you just use that food and you're none worse for it. But that's a tricky one as well. And I've talked about this for probably the last year or so. I have stocked up on food before it gets outrageously priced. And then, so it's almost a gambling thing, right? Is buying 50 pounds of meat right now going to be worth it, or buying, 50 gallons of fuel? I've done that as well. Buying 50 gallons of fuel right now because I know the prices are going to get higher. Is that actually worth it? Or, is the price going to go down right after I bought that 50 gallons of fuel? Then you got to go out and buy another freezer to buy 50 more pounds, or food. You got to go out and buy another freezer to get 50 more pounds. Tiger said nothing you could do about it but dig in. Yeah, that's. I mean, in a nutshell, that's exactly what it is. You just do what you can do what you feel like is the best thing that you can do, and just start doing it. Like all the stuff that we were just talking about throughout this whole podcast. Just start doing all that stuff. And it's not necessarily the buying the supplies, especially, these days with the economy the way it is. It's learning about all these things, understanding if it does get that bad, how things might turn out. Maybe talk to, great grandparents or people that have gone through the Depression, gone through hard times, that know exactly what we could be in for. I don't see it turning into some sort of Venezuela situation. Like that guy was talking about, the 100% inflation. It's possible. I suppose anything's possible. I don't necessarily see it turning out like that, but you just never know, especially the way the governments around the world, and not just here, the way everybody's doing things. So, it's just, nothing would surprise me. I hope things, for our sake, for my sake, for my family's sake and all that, I hope things get better, because it's a lot easier to prepare when you're not counting pennies and crap like that, when you don't have to figured, what can I do here to make sure I save a little bit here that can go here, doing all those different things. So definitely in the future, hopefully it does get better. Basically my whole point. But like Tiger said, man, you just never know how it's going to turn out. All you can do is just be ready for it when it does. I think at this point right now, there's, 50 different things. You've got the stuff going on in Ukraine. You've got this administration that just seems hell-bent on changing the whole system. And what does that mean? The whole structure, the way the United States works. What does that mean for the future? So there's, 50 different things to be concerned about. But all of them, sort of to Tiger's point, all of them, it all comes back to locally. Prep locally, prep yourself, your family, do all that stuff and get us ready for as much as you can, because we just don't know what's going to happen. So freaking out and worrying about one thing, then missing the other thing is not going to do you any good. So just do what you could do. Don't be, don't prep scared. Don't let friends let prep scared, I suppose. But prep with some urgency, I think, and, prep with a purpose, basically. So that's it for, unless anybody else has got something they want to talk about. I think I'm out of ideas here. They did, I don't know that we got time to get into this a lot. There was another school shooting out here in Colorado, and and I feel for the people involved in it, but it just drives me crazy watching all that. Maybe I'll get into this in the next show, but how they just, go straight for the guns and, don't talk about this kid, I suppose, the kid that was involved in the shooting. I don't know if any of you heard about it. The kid that did it, they actually had to pat him down before he went to school every time, which is, red flag. Can you say red flag? Try to figure that stuff out. But maybe we'll get into that next time, though. I've got everybody in the chat. I already said that I was going to end the show, and now everybody's saying goodbye, and now I'm rambling on again. So what I am going to go ahead and get out of here tonight. But with that, everybody watching tonight, I appreciate it. Everybody over on Rumble, appreciate you all joining in. On Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff. Appreciate you all joining in tonight. And like I said, Liberated Lady and everyone else, like I said, I am going to try to make sure and keep doing this on Thursdays. We're going to do this until I turn into a liar, and then I don't anymore. So no guarantees, but that's the plan right now. I'm just going to go for Thursdays. I'm going to stick to that plan and see how well it goes. I want this to be an audio podcast as well. So those of you listening to this in the future know that I do these shows on Thursdays. I do them here and over at Rumble. And then the audio podcast will come out Friday or Saturday, something like that. But with that, everyone take care and prepare. I think I'm done here finally today. Take care and prepare, and we will talk to you all later.